First Friday. So that's it.
Fridays are all.
Yeah.
Pretty free.
Oh, perfect.
I'm trying to ski in the mornings, but I'll probably go away here pretty soon.
Oh, how exciting.
When you usually
Yes, I'm sure you can honestly. He's too nice. I was like, I was debating.
Yeah.
You did much last year.
I don't need that, honestly. I was like, I'm good.
Well, last 5 years I've like not done it. I understand. Last year I did like the 4 packs and bachelor. So we had some to do some bachelor and travel. I know weird, so it's pretty fun out there. So, that's where it is.
All right.
Yeah, it's nice to have the
I think that's been broken for like a solid minute.
A long time. I bet he's about it.
All right.
All right, that's 5:30. It's 6:30.
One I'd forgotten that President's Day is the busiest.
Did you get it to work? Or you just, no? I mean,
It's not. Yeah, we do this kind of on the door.
It's that time.
Hey,
Will, you ready? You good? All right, cool. All right. Who's ready to party? And by party, I mean listen to awesome talks. All right, cool. Cool. All right, so we got 2 great talks lined up for you tonight. Unfortunately, our original speaker, Ryan, who was going to come out here from Les Schwab, fell ill, so we wish him all the best and hope to see him back here next month because I think he's going to have a really cool talk. But we've got 2 great talks here. First up is going to be our own Caroline Kerns, who helps organize another meetup in town, and after that, Tyler's going to come talk to us about about how to do some AWS stuff. So that's going to be some cool stuff. Anyway, who knows what developer relations is and what a developer relations person does? Is that the right title?
roughly.
Roughly. Okay, I see one hand. I think I know why you know. Yeah. Nobody else? Well, then you're in for a treat because you're all going to learn something too. Because we have our all the way from Couchbase, as well as local to town, Lily Kerns. Come talk to us, Lily. It's all you. Oh, you got the remote. You don't even need help with slides.
If it works.
If it works.
It never
if you
works.
need help, I'm happy to go over that.
Perfect. All right. So basically, let's talk about what DevRel is and why it matters. A little bit about me, Caroline Kerns. Why should you listen to me? You really shouldn't. But since you're here, I've been in community management in the tech field for about 10 years now, in unofficial capacity and official capacity. And I'm happy to explain what I mean by that after my talk. So developer relations. I wanted to put this up because that is pretty much my experience when I try to tell people I work in developer relations. It goes from everything to, oh, you just party all the time, to you research a lot, to my manager is thinking I burn money, which is scarily accurate, to what I actually do. Not me so much. I don't travel as much as other folks in DevRel, but there is a lot of travel. That's the agenda. Don't get scared. I know that looks like a lot. I love agendas. It's not going to be as scary as it looks up here. We're going to basically cover what is DevRel, a little bit of history about it, some purpose and goals, some key roles within DevRel, as well as benefits for the developer, benefits for the companies, and then industry examples with some final thoughts. Before we get started, if I'm wobbling a little bit, I have a touch of vertigo, so I'm a little unsteady on my feet, but I am fine. Just like to put that out there because people sometimes come up to me like, you good? So what is DevRel? So DevRel nowadays really refers to a very strategic function within tech companies, a very strategic team. It's about building relationships with developers external to your company and internal within your company. That also includes various activities such as events, workshops, developer advocacy, feedback gathering, technical support, things like that. In short, it means empowering developers, building trust, and driving adoption. Now, driving adoption is a dirty, dirty marketing term. And I found this fantastic meme by Corey Quinn. Corey Quinn is an amazing person. If you don't follow him on social media, look him up. He's well known for his Last Week in AWS podcast and newsletter, things like that. He's one of the most outspoken people I've ever met in my life. And I saw that he posted that on Twitter a long time ago, and I'm gonna say he's right. That is a pretty contentious opinion within developer relations. A lot of folks like to pretend we're not marketing. We absolutely are marketing, but we try to believe that we're the good side of marketing. Before I dive further into explaining why we're the good side of marketing, I wanted to just do a brief history kind of about DevRel. So in the 80s and 90s, as personal computers and internet really started to become popular, developer communities started building. But back then it wasn't so much about companies saying, hey, come join our community, but rather folks that learned how to program getting together themselves to answer questions, to help each other out, and to figure out how can we make this better. It was very clumsy, very spread out. There wasn't like a specific forum to go to, things like that. It was really spread out and very localized to your geographical location. Then in the 90s and 2000s, Microsoft and other companies started seeing the benefit of doing targeted developer relations. Microsoft, as I learned today, was one of the first companies that employed an actual developer relations team.
Wow.
Yeah. They called them evangelists, tech experts, and they were expected to do everything DevRel. And you're gonna see in a little bit of why that's basically impossible to do. But good for them. They tried, and it was really the first formalization of DevRel. And then in the 2000s and 2010s, the industry around computers, programming languages, all the things we do in tech really grew, and with that, the field of DevRel grew. It went from evangelism to a host of activities. And then today, as I mentioned earlier, it's a critical function of pretty much any tech company that wants to be successful. I want to talk about some purpose and goals. Meet all the people. Honestly, it can be narrowed down to this. But if you want to expand on it, it's about engagement and empowerment. You want the developers that use your tools to be engaged with you, your company, and your tools, and empower them to not only use them for themselves, but also use them within their companies, within their journey. It's also about community building, just like we do right here in this user group. We're networking, we're community building, we're talking about things. This technically is part of DevRel.
Wait, I am DevRel?
You are DevRel.
Yay!
Everybody's DevRel. It's also about developer advocacy. Again, kind of building that proudness of using a specific tool. We all know Microsoft fanboys, fangirls. We all know AWS fanboys and fangirls. Also about feedback gathering. If a company wants to gather feedback and they don't have an established DevRel team or DevRel community, the way they typically go about it is going to their customers. From those customers, especially if they're high-performing customers, they're very likely to get some biased responses or some not-so-honest feedback. It's also about education. You want to educate your developer community about what you are doing, about new things that are coming out. Developer success. If a developer uses your tools and they're successful in what they're trying to do, that success rubs off on you. And of course, brand loyalty. If they're using your tools and they're having a good time, they're loving it, then they're going to tell all their friends about it. And boom, there's that brand loyalty pretty much any company is looking for. As I mentioned earlier, when Microsoft started with their developer relationship roles, they were expected to do, the evangelists were expected to do a host of roles. Mainly all of that. As scary as it looks, I'm performing all but one of these functions myself. No.
Yes, you're not shit posting on Twitter anymore.
Not shit posting on Twitter, but shit posting on Discord. Trying 1,000 tools, that's a slow week. It's really so much where companies started to expand roles, constrict roles, and discover, hey, we could split those up. So nowadays, you can find these key roles within developer relations. You have the developer advocate, the community manager, what I do, the technical evangelist, the developer experience specialist, one of the newer roles I've come across, as well as technical writers, and many, many more. So let's dive into these key roles a little bit. Developer advocate, that is typically synonymous with the developer relations team. If somebody talks about developer relations, typically people think of the developer advocates. These are technical experts, not always, often, who represent the voice of the developers within their own org. So basically, they go out, they talk about their community, about their company, to their community, and then gather feedback, figure out what does the community want, bring it back within their own organization. They actively engage with developers. You're gonna hear me in the next few minutes talk about active and passive engagement. Active engagement means something like what I'm doing right now. Go to the community, talk to people. Go to events, talk to people. We also have passive engagement, which is more the one-to-many approach, or more the written approach. Developer advocates also provide technical assistance and guidance. These are the folks you can typically find in forums, on Reddit, in Discord, Slack, all of those. And there's a community manager. Our job is typically to grow the developer community. We do this by putting on events, workshops, tutorials. We manage forums, we manage social media. I hate it, I don't do it, but a lot of community managers do it. We facilitate discussions, foster collaboration among community, and unfortunately also mediate and address concerns. We want people to have a good time. And when there's fighting, which has been in every single community I've seen it in, we try to mediate. I've become a pretty damn good mediator myself. Then there's a technical evangelist. A lot of times that role overlaps dramatically with the developer advocate, but there is some differences. With technical evangelists, they tend to be a little bit more senior than the developer advocate. They also tend to prefer that one-to-many approach. Typically that means doing a webinar, where they're not talking in person, where they can't really mingle one-on-one, but rather do these bigger approaches. They also promote the benefits and capabilities of the product more so than the developer advocate. It's more about talking than listening. Not accurate for every single job. Every company is going to run theirs a little bit different, but that typically is what I see. There's that word, the passively engaged with the developers. They're still engaged, but they're not quite as actively engaged as the developer advocate or the community manager. However, they collaborate closely with community managers and with developer advocates. Then we also have the developer experience specialist. I myself only came across this role last year, so I think it's pretty new, but I've seen it pop up more and more. I love the explanation of this role. As so many so many people are going to boot camps now, doing job switches and career switches, especially what we've seen with COVID. I think this role is so important. Their main focus is getting somebody from being interested in a company's product to getting them fully onboarded and making that as smooth as possible. When I started at AWS, to the point I left 2 years, I still don't know what the hell we do. I have an overarching idea, but if you ask me to set up an EC2 instance, I would have to Google everything. The developer experience specialist, counting on you, man. The developer experience specialist, their job is truly to make that onboarding experience as easy as possible, whether that is from the first interest to the free trial or the free trial to paid customer. And then there's a technical writer. Technical writing was not a position I associated with DevRel. I thought it was more closely related to engineering or product management, things like that. But I've seen it pop up more and more in DevRel. Their purpose, I think a lot of people here know, it's creating clear documentation, tutorial, reference guides, and more. But I've seen a lot of technical writers, when they collaborate with developer advocates, their writing takes on another level, because they understand, after talking with the developer advocate, after getting engaged with that community, they understand how does their community read. That sounds funny, but if you're going with the community, there's going to be vast differences to how they learn, to how they want to be presented information. And technical writers are learning that it's not always the same way that works. And many more. What I've learned, if you can think it, there's a role for it in DevRel. I've seen companies that have very specific things. For example, they have a person for Twitter, a person for Dev.to, a person for Medium, a person for LinkedIn, and everything in between. And I've seen companies where they have one person that does all the iceberg stuff I showed you earlier. And it can work. You don't have to split it up. But if your company has capacities to split it up, sometimes that's a pretty good idea. So I rattled at you what we do, but there's some benefits too to not only having a developer relationship team, but also building a DevRel community that's focused on your company. Everybody benefits. So let's talk about the developer benefits, because that's a lot easier to wrap your mind around it. So for the developer, if they come into your community that you have built with your developer relations team, they're going to have access to resources. They're going to have an easy access to documentation, tutorials, webinars, events. They're also going to have access to technical support. Right now, if I have an issue with something for a company that I'm not acquainted with, I'm going to have to fill out one of the support tickets and pray to God they reply to me within 48 hours. As they often advertise, and never do. Lego being the exception, I had an issue with Lego, I reached out to them within 3 hours. Solved. Really? Yeah, I was impressed. And they made me happy.
Lego is big. Everyone has.
Yes.
Unless you step on it.
Unless you step on it.
Also, community engagement networking. A big focus on DevRel teams, as internally, externally, is we want our community to learn from each other. I don't want to be the one to have to educate everybody. I want to educate somebody and then have them educate their own community, because they know what their community wants to know and how they want to learn. There's also feedback channels. A lot of developer relations programs, once you're in them, you have a much easier time to give your feedback, and they're listening to you, which is great for the developer. There's also professional development. When I talk about some industry examples later, you'll see what I mean by professional development, but that is hugely important and starting to really be a focus for Microsoft, Google, AWS, and a few other companies. Also, early access. What developer doesn't like early access? A lot of them, don't be mad at me, but a lot of developers do really enjoy getting that alpha access and beta access and providing input. It makes them feel seen, heard, and valued. And there's also the recognition and personal brand building. I showed that meme earlier with the, I want to say anteater that's standing up, where I referred to Corey Quinn. Corey Quinn is an AWS community builder and really built his own personal brand around the AWS community. Personal brand building. He is so well known now. Let's talk about some company benefits. DevRel can be a little bit of a hard sell for companies because we're a cost center. We are marketing, and we might bring some sales in, but we're not sales. And we are truly a cost center. We cost so much money. But there's benefits for the company. Increased developer adoption. A bunch of research has shown that if your company reaches out to developers, gets to know them, gets to understand what they need from you, and you provide that, they will adopt your products. There's also that improved product feedback. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes when companies don't have their own developer community, they reach out to their customers, and they might get really biased feedback because they're only listening to their top 3 customers. Now, if they branch that out and talk to developers, ground-level developers that use their product day in, day out, they get a lot more varied results in their feedback, and they might even get better feedback. Brand advocacy and loyalty. It's a big one. We have I used to be at AWS, not anymore. AWS has a program called the Community Builders. The brand loyalty within that program is insane in a good way. It's absolutely beautiful for AWS to see that. We have kids that just are graduating college to senior level execs that will not switch off of AWS because of the developer team. There's also innovation and co-creation. A lot of developer teams now are starting to work together with their communities to create content. If I tell you, I work at Couchbase, if I tell you, you need to try Couchbase, and tell you 12 reasons why, you might be like, yeah, okay, but she's getting paid by them. But if somebody else, your best friend, tells you, hey, I've used Couchbase, it's amazing, you're gonna put a little bit more stock in that. That's what companies are realizing too. So they're starting to collaborate with these community members of, hey, how can we work together? Market differentiation. I'm going to show some examples of that later too. Really important. And then recruitment and talent acquisition. At AWS, we had a community builder. She was a self-taught machine learning expert by now. Absolutely beautiful. She was a community builder, worked her butt off, and now she's a senior developer advocate at AWS. An AWS hero. She is now the head of modern compute at AWS. So AWS is not the only one. Microsoft has done it, Google has done it, other companies have done it. when they look for new positions or when they look to fill new positions, they tend to go to their communities because these people are already passionate about their product. Everything else can be taught, but if they're already passionate about it, they're gonna do it. They're gonna work their butts off. Let's go into some industry examples of successful community programs. Community building, so hot right now. Microsoft and GitHub. I'm lumping them together. Please don't be mad at me. Microsoft user groups. They have community members running .NET user groups. Microsoft doesn't have to pay for it. They don't have to do anything they don't want to do with it. The community runs itself. Microsoft MVP programs. There's people working their butts off to be recognized year after year to be part of this program. GitHub campus experts. More and more companies are realizing that they should not only focus their advocacy on professionals already in the field, but on students that are going to enter the workforce in the next 1, 2, 3 years. The MVP Global Summit, an event for MVPs. The Microsoft Build event, webinars, tutorials. I promise you're gonna see a pattern. Google Ambassador Program. And the market differentiator for Google, a Women Tech Maker program. First big company to do a program focused on women. Big companies, I mean Microsoft, AWS, Google. Please don't fight me. Would love to find out if there's other ones. That is the only one that popped up, and that is one heck of a market differentiator. Student Ambassador Program, just like GitHub, they're seeing the value in getting to these students and getting to STEM students, encouraging them, use our products, we will help you. That professional development, it can start early. It can start in your freshman, sophomore, junior year. User groups, the GDG groups, just like Microsoft's, they're self-run by community members. Google I/O events, webinars, tutorials. AWS. AWS is a heavy hitter. They've really invested heavily in DevRel and they continue to do so. Again, AWS user groups, they are run by community members. AWS employees are not heavily involved, can't be heavily involved, in fact. AWS Heroes, an AWS Heroes Summit, similar to the MVP program. Subject matter experts in their field, and they get together twice a year. AWS community builders, open to folks who are fairly new, 100 to 300 tech level. It's an application-based program, but again, big program. Cloud Clubs started last year, started by Jen Looper, the head of academic advocacy, I believe is her title, at AWS. She also saw the value in getting to students. Exclusive Slack community. I'm sure the other two have it as well, Google and Microsoft, but I know for a fact AWS has it. Also webinars, and then their market differentiator is upskilling. We have a fantastic teammate over there, Mark Pergola. He started a New Voices program. Now what does that mean? We realized we want our community to go out and talk to their community about AWS. But a lot of folks have never done public speaking. So we put together a program where we're teaching them how to do presentations. Now this program is in its second iteration, and it's being led by AWS Heroes. These folks, some are heroes, some are AWSers, and they're leading it. We had so many applications that they had to choose who could be a coach. And the coaches that were chosen announced it on LinkedIn, just as excited as the students that were chosen to participate. Right.
You've mentioned AWS Heroes. What is an AWS Hero?
An AWS Hero is essentially somebody that's a subject matter expert in one of 12 topics: community, data, machine learning, serverless, etc. They can be nominated by somebody that works at AWS, and then they go through a rigorous review process. Don't worry, they never find out if they don't make it. They're not told they're nominated. If they are chosen after that rigorous review, then they get a fantastic email and they become a part of this very exclusive club. Worldwide, we have 250 heroes, I believe now. We have over 3,000, or right around 3,000 community builders. So it's quite a bit, and these are just the people that are active in these programs. The user groups alone have thousands upon thousands more members. It's a massive program. Sneak. Sneak is a sponsor. Sneak also has an ambassador program. Their market differentiator, in my personal opinion, and Randall can fight me on that if he wants to, it was the Big Fix event last year. It was one heck of an event where they encourage companies and folks, check your security, Fix it. Fix any vulnerabilities you have. It was so much fun to watch that event. Once you're part of the ambassador program, you're going to have opportunities for webinars, tutorials, feedback opportunities. And then their differentiator right now is they're sponsoring user groups. They might not speak as much as user groups, but people here know, hey, Sneak is involved. Gonna be back on your mind. If you're looking at security, you're gonna be looking at Sneak. But wait, there's more. So, DevRel, we have our own community. DevRel consists of a bunch of different people. There's people like me who have done some very, very minimal coding, and there's people like me who have been senior engineers and architects that decide, I kind of want to have a more active approach with the community. We don't know everything. So people got together and built DevRel communities. There's DevRel Con, which is going to be in New York City this year, the DevRel Survival Guide podcast, the DevRel Awards, and the DevRel Collective. We also need help. All of us need help. Because we come from such various backgrounds. For example, I worked in retail, I worked in the automotive industry, I worked in factories, the solar companies. I have such a stupid background that is so helpful, but I've noticed others too. I work with people who were teachers. I work with people that have been, senior software engineers for so long. So it's really fun to get together with other people in DevRel and figure out, okay, what are we doing? Where's DevRel headed? Because we want to make sure we're headed in a direction that makes sense not only for all the companies, but also for all of us. Again, we're marketing, but we don't always want to be. So I'm going to go over some final thoughts. Developer relationships is about building relationships. It's about building relationships externally with the people who use our products and internally with our engineers. At AWS, even after 2 years of working our butts off, and that program has existed long before I joined, it's going to exist long since I left. People within AWS don't know we have these programs, which is mind-blowing. But it happens at every company. So we are working hard to build relationships within companies. We have that constant selling for our upper management. Yes, we cost you money, but we're worth it, and here's why. It's also about empowering developers. As I talked about these developer communities, all of them have gotten better because they're part of that community, if they want to become better. I've seen folks that just want to join because they get a t-shirt, they don't care about anything else. But if they want to learn, they can learn. It's also driving innovation. We have people in developer communities that have amazing ideas, that do things we never thought possible, which is why so many companies do hackathons. It opens you up to understand, okay, what are we not thinking about? What can people do with our product that never occurred to us? AWS released a really fun product called the Party Rock app. Party Rock is amazing. It allows anybody to build an app. They're doing a hackathon right now. I think it might be closing now or has closed. But just the entries from that, of how creative people are, is amazing. Foster collaboration. As I said, we want to encourage community members to collaborate with each other. We want to make sure that not only do they learn from us, but they also learn from each other and then pass that knowledge on. We can't reach everybody in the world. AWS has that goal. They want to reach everybody in the world. And that is only possible if we educate you, you educate 10 other people, 10 other people educate 10 other people, you know how that goes. I'm happy to share resources. I have a ton of books on this topic. I'd love to chat about it. Any questions? Yeah.
So I know some other community folks, and I feel like the topic of justification to management is a classic. Are there like objective measures that you report up that are kind of like help make that case, or like how do you put it in a spreadsheet versus like good vibes, I guess, is a classic.
No, that is a great question. At previous companies, a lot of it was, as long as we feel good, we do good. I don't function like that. I need numbers. So for example, right now, at my new company, what we're doing, how many user groups are we sponsoring? How many user groups are we talking at? How many events are we sponsoring? How do we talk there? How many ambassadors do we have in our program? How many of them are active? You know, we're tracking all these numbers. We're rebuilding it from the ground up. There's a lot of movement of what do we want to do, how do we want to do it. So it's definitely more, well, we can't do sales directly. We want to see we're making an impact. We are reaching people, and the people we are reaching are happy to use our product. when we have a new release, we talk about it to not just the ambassador, but the community as a whole, and then we can see, okay, do we have engagement? Do we see a noticeable uptick in people who went to our blog site or went to our tutorials, things like that? So that's mostly what's going on there, and unfortunately it's still not perfect. There's no perfect way to measure it, but I like it a heck of a lot more than the approach of, yeah, I think we do well, because I'm not built for that. Any other question? If not, I'm just going to say this was perfect and thank you. No, just kidding.
So, tell us about Couchbase. I have a feeling there are people here in this room who don't know what Couchbase is.
You're putting me on the spot? No. I've been with Couchbase just a couple of months. It's a database company. We just released vector search. We're one of the first companies, if not the first company, that released vector search capabilities for mobile. We're releasing a lot of fun stuff, so we have a lot of big things coming up that I am not allowed to talk about right now. But check it out, look it up, stay in touch over the next couple of months. You'll see us a lot. We're starting to really amp up our presence at events, at user groups, things like that. We are a partner of AWS, so you'll find us at all the AWS summits, at AWS reInvent, which is still weird to me to be at a partner company now. But I love it. No, I would classify it still as a startup. It's still very much a startup. It still functions very much as a startup. But the nice thing is everybody's excited what they're doing. I've not met a single person that isn't excited, and that seems weird, but it's very fun. All right. You can find me on LinkedIn.
At Couchbase, are you starting off this DevRel role initially with the company and building it from scratch, or did they already have a team in place when you got added?
They're actually pretty interesting. So at AWS, for example, we have a massive developer relations team that's split up by region, by function, things like that, and then we had a community team. At Couchbase, it's a lot smaller. We're a lot smaller company. We have a teeny tiny developer relations team, and then I'm actually separately. Me and my manager, we're a community team. It's just the two of us, but we're sitting separately, working collaboratively with developer relations. And the cool thing is when you go into a smaller company, so I always say DevRel is for anyone that's somewhat related or somewhat interested in tech. You do not have to be a tech expert to get into DevRel. It seems weird, but it's absolutely true. The fun thing with a small company is they're letting me try everything I want. I just wrote a blog about RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, something I had no idea about before I started writing that blog. I wanted to write that blog to learn. And they were like, yeah, cool, do it. So I get to expand my skills about it, which is really fun. But my main day-to-day task is I work with our ambassador program. It's very small right now. I have some very lofty goals this year. But also user groups. We're examining user groups of, do we want to do our own user groups? Couchbase has done some user groups. For example, in London, they have their own user group. Some people don't like that. Some people don't want to go to a company-specific user group. So we're also going to other user groups. You know, attach ourselves to that, but also make that almost like a symbiotic relationship. We want to help them as much as they help us.
So it's not just those gigantic companies that are utilizing.
No, it's tiny companies, big companies. I've worked for a single person company, and I was their community manager, and that was a lot more of the roles that was. And it was so much fun. There is value. Yeah, thank you.
How do you get into this sort of role?
I fell into it by accident. Typically, there's a ton of job openings. If you look up developer relations jobs, you're gonna be overwhelmed. Le Schwab just hired a community manager. So there's a ton of these kind of jobs out there. The way I fell into it, when I graduated college with an operations management degree. Loved my degree more than anything, but couldn't find a job in it. So I took some time, decided, I'm gonna learn how to code. Didn't go well. But I went on Twitch and I started looking up, okay, who's live coding here? Met my friend Raphael, who should still be watching you. I joined his community and just kind of fell into being a community manager for his Twitch community. From there, I joined the live coding team on Twitch, a bunch of live coders who work for Microsoft, for Sneak, for Vonage, for all kinds of companies. Was a community manager for them. When 2020 hit, we put on 2 major conferences on Twitch. And from there, I got essentially headhunted into Vonage and then AWS and now Couchbase. So basically the best thing is just start doing it, whether it's organizing a user group, speaking at user groups, getting involved in that, blogging, perfect way to get into it. So it's really, I don't want to say easy, but there's a lot more open to get in than a pure tech job. I also suggested to folks that are currently in boot camp or folks that are beginner coders, try to find a DevRel role, whether that's technical writing, community management, developer advocacy, anything like that, it can help you get in. I've seen folks that started in community management move to engineering roles. Also seen the opposite. It's pretty fluid, which is great. All right.
All right. All right. Thanks again, Lily. All right. Cool. Before we get started, I'm going to get started. Normally I do this thing at the very beginning, and I totally spaced it. So, again, hi, my name's Brian. I'm your host here at DevOps, and one of your fellow co-organizers. We've also got Tyler and Nathan right over here. Say hi, thank you, because these guys helped put this thing on. One of the cool things, too, is Nathan's helping build us a really awesome website, which very soon that'll be unveiled, and you can get to see the coolness that he's been working on. So, just so you know, as if you, as we heard in your talk, that we are sponsored by Sneak. Who knows what Sneak is? All right. For those who don't know, Sneak is a great way to help make sure your project stays more secure. They look for security flaws in your code. What's cool is they even have a free tier. So if you've got your own project that you're building on your own, and you want to make sure you're not unleashing horrible things into the world and pissing off your end users, apart from also having an open dialogue with your end users to make sure that they're happy with your product and take feedback and all that, Sneak is there to catch those security gaping holes, so you don't just specifically have to wait for those user reports. It'll just check for you and say, oh, very clearly you are importing a stale library that has this horrible SSL bug. You should rotate off that, like now. And they're awesome at that. So Randall, who's their developer relations, helped get us sponsored here. So thank you to Randall, wherever you are, because he's not here tonight. All right. Also, thanks to Ben Tech for helping provide the space here. So what you can do is you can check out our lobby pass, which helps you get access to just using this space right here that you're sitting in. You can come here and just plunk down on a table, put in your earbuds, enjoy the free Wi-Fi, enjoy the free thumb coffee, or well, covered under the rent anyway. And come hang out, come be a part of. So if you want to know more about that, I would say go talk to Jason, who's not here, so you can come talk to me and I can try and help connect you. We also have desks available for just like short-term or long-term rentals as well, so check it out. What's that?
And lots of dogs.
And lots of dogs. So many dogs. Occasionally one. There's one that likes to bark a whole lot.
There's one.
Yes. All right. Next, the other thing that I always like to do here is find out who's hiring. So if you or your company is hiring, make yourself available. All right, looks like just one. Okay, cool. Awesome. Whoops. Now, who's looking for work? All right. And who's looking for work for junior positions?
I think we might.
Okay, cool. Well, talk amongst yourselves, and let's see if we can make some connections happen. And that's all I got. So let's take just a quick 5-10 minute break. Get started. What time is it now? It's
7:07.
Thank you, 7:07. Let's reconvene at 7:15. All right. We got Girl Scout cookies. Please eat them. I don't want to take those home. All right.
All kinds of.
Thank you for the I do appreciate it.
Hi,
Annie.
You can take a look.
Nice to meet you.
And then you can find me on LinkedIn.
Did you give a talk, didn't you, at one point?
And let me know if there's anything that interests you. And then
Over that public
over the next few months, we're going to be opening up.
No, there was
more jobs
another
within the
woman who
DevRel
does,
community as well.
All right.
think she's a data analyst.
Yeah, definitely take a
And
look.
she did
We're
talk
starting
a couple
to
months
expand.
ago or so.
We're doing a lot of good stuff.
What's
That's
your,
really
your
interesting.
background in the DevOps world?
How's your job search going?
I'm currently a veterinary technician.
Yeah, it's a lot of
I
search.
graduated from boot camp
Yeah, I
last
mean,
year,
I
and so
kinda
I'm just
cooled
looking
down
for
a
my
little
next
bit
career. Sorry?
Started from a
So it was online and learned Ruby on Rails backend programmers. I don't really have the visual eye for front end, and I also just don't care that much. So I'd rather just work with the data, but we would love to stay in medicine in some capacity.
So I
we
can,
have it all sorted.
I think, I can do front end stuff, I'm more interested in back end.
Oh, nice. What do you do?
A little bit of everything, similar kind of background,
How about you?
mostly in Python, Django, very similar to Rails and Ruby.
Yeah.
They're kind of
Tech
like
support.
about as close as you can get in terms of solving problems in similar ways.
Red,
Yeah,
edges. Put it in the front, put it in the back.
How I ended up here.
Perfect.
You're not
So
code,
that was like
you
deployment
have to do
of web
a tiny
applications.
step back from code.
How did you transfer in? How did you find your way to DevOps?
Just like by
That
wanting
would be a
to do
lot
some
better
work,
than
right?
doing
So you
that.
like make something like a side project,
So
and
that's
I gotta like put it on the internet.
But I
Yeah.
don't know anything
And it's like I
about
can run it on my laptop, but like I wanna, how do I put it in a server? And then I want the server to be like, how do I, if it blows up, how do I make it again? And then kind of learning the tools. Yeah, I wrote like a bunch of blog posts around Chef at one point, which is like a
It's like
We have a lot of
it's like a server provisioning tool. So there's things like Puppet, which is like the famous one that's actually based out of Portland.
Oh, yeah, well, there's
Chef
also
solves.
diversity.
There's like 4 or 5 of these that are like, how do I go from like blank server to full application installs with all the configuration, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I kind of taught myself that kind of tool set.
Okay.
Because I like had a side project and I wanted it to.
Just want to
be on
make
the
sure I
internet.
understood that.
Where could I find these?
They forced return to office.
I mean, they're not like super relevant
They want to be
Okay.
at this
important
point.
4 days a
Like
week.
it's
Back in the day.
to the point, yeah, it's like not a
It's
super.
been replaced by Terraform.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I don't wanna say
So
it's
same idea.
entirely true. It's
Yes and no. I mean, Terraform's a little more about like managing the infrastructure, whereas like
Oh, they're.
the
there's a
provisioning
lot of
tools
it.
tend to be more about managing like applications. So like Terraform will give you like a server and a load balancer, and then something like Chef or Salt or any of these tools are kind of like, I have a server and now I want to, what Python process am I running? What files are on the file system? This kind of
Okay.
stuff. There's stuff.
Yeah, you're always
there's like
looking
cloud formation. I mean, like AWS, I'm sure has their own version of all this tooling.
Okay.
Should be open.
I came around after.
Now,
How are you like doing provisioning? Are you doing just like Docker images or?
I don't know if you saw online on the stream.
So I mean, yeah, I mean Docker's another.
Craig's
Like a Docker file.
Kubernetes.
Yeah, because he was doing that in Austin.
Oh.
Yeah, but.
Yeah.
It's not super popular, yeah. I'm not using it like at work currently. We use Salt, which is a similar tool.
Okay, find me Jackson there.
Things to do.
Salt and Puppet were written in Ruby.
Oh, okay.
Might make them a little
Sounds like
easier.
Time Machine.
Salt is written in Python,
Always
which
had
is
to
part of the
look
reason
over resume.
we went that direction, just it's like the same stack that we're used to.
I'm learning Python right now. There's so many similarities. I can make connections with this. This is
They're
fun.
only hiring now for jobs that are.
Like, was it the episode?
And it makes me sad because the other big tech meetup in town is the job.
That makes sense.
I'd like still go, and I like write JavaScript.
I couldn't tell them not
Yeah, so, I think there's another.
You walk up, you slaughter your eye.
I didn't go to the last one either.
Push me to
One of the files talks about a project he was doing of utilizing
Take a look, because I think we actually, well, we have several lists of types.
utilizing advertisements.
Open ACI.
Yes.
Yeah, that was really cool. He was using Yelp.
There we go.
And he hooked it up to ChatGPT API. It's automatically responds to Yelp leads. The way Yelp leads works is first come, first served gets the lead of your business. So if I'm working
Yeah, I
on
know,
a customer.
I want to be able to like do my
It
job,
goes out to
do it
the
well,
phone
press it
area,
through,
and
and
the
then
first farmer to respond.
take some time off. So having
2 minutes.
having a job.
Yeah, so he licenses out a thing to have the chat
Full time,
Okay,
PTO.
They're-
Oh, my drains.
Everybody's in my time. That means I can wake up, get a full day's worth of work,
It was at Kyle's.
maybe put in an extra hour or two to get ahead.
See, it's a
Well,
It's enough people.
I've been here for a month.
It's not
It's very
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Python and JavaScript are like the two meetups you can usually find in almost any town.
For some reason, there's not many.
Yeah, no, I actually talked to Brian at one point about doing a Python meetup, and then he did the DevOps meetup, and I feel like that was like enough, close enough that I got lowered my motivation to start a Python one.
It's funny, it's sort of
Yeah, I mean, DevOps is just all
Right.
Yeah. I'm Marcus, by the way.
Yeah.
that was the job that got me out
Make
of
it easy on you.
No, it's really cool. Yeah. I think it's interesting stuff. You probably spend.
But yeah, what's your kind of interest in DevOps or Python?
Yeah, I mean, you know, automation roles that might as well.
collectively.
Sure, DevOps is to me essentially.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Everything we do currently is in our department's on-prem. There's no off-prem like AWS. So we're using Ansible.
And then I went to Facebook.
A product called Stackstorm is just.
I got one of my first tasks here, decommission these AWS.
It's Python and.
That's a lot of hosts.
I mean, it's like every ops tool is like, YAML wrapped in some language.
Tens of thousands of those in multiple zones.
Yeah, we just lost.
Where do you
For Dell.
Yeah, exactly.
First of all, Mongo.
But upskilling to some of the, I think the opportunity to Terraform. I know what it is, but it's like, it'd be nice to get off-prem. That's what I'm doing.
The cloud is a whole other world.
enormous amount of complexity.
Oh, no?
Yeah, 44 years old.
Most of my experience before all that.
Newer than my, older than my truck.
I mean, that's like that's the trajectory of the industry, right?
You have to
Like,
be
it's like, our first ops job, we were doing still like racking servers and
Yeah, so we have to.
being like, we have to forecast out like 6 months in advance.
I was gonna
For
say.
Dell, they ship it in, they get it racked. It's like, it's so, I don't remember how much power you have, like it was a whole thing.
Well, we still have amps.
I mean, I think now the power concerns are national, right? I saw that thing where AWS bought like a nuclear power plant.
This guy right here.
Okay, that's it. Have fun. Good night.
I think
No,
they
just
maybe
kidding.
find the power.
Cool. So we actually do have two speakers tonight, believe it or not. Because
Something that's verified.
Tyler came in clutch today to fill in for our second speaker tonight. Let's give him an extra hand just for that alone. But now, you know, Tyler is, as the slide says, a grizzled veteran and knows more than he ought, and actually wants to share some of that with you today. So, AWS Primer, take it, Tyler.
Nice. Thanks, Frank. All right, so, yes, grizzled veteran. Who here was doing some sort of IT job in 1999? The guys who have a lot of wrinkles and that dead stare in their eyes, just 1,000-yard stare, which was a non-event, right? So, a little bit about myself and what I'm going to talk about. Real simple agenda, 65 slides. We'll be here until about 10, as long as everybody's okay with that. Kidding, it's only going to be that number of slides. Won't bore you too much with it. The idea of this is just to get you a primer around AWS. This is kind of what you'll get if you're taking the very first course around AWS. However, the spin I'm going to put on it is more of from an ex-network administrator, systems administrator, webmaster, as we joked just now, that kind of perspective on it. And so for those of you who have had experience outside of AWS or cloud services, maybe on-prem, or maybe your company's in a data center, you've done some work with that, this is your talk. This is going to teach you about that. If you've done none of those, I'm going to talk to your level as well, and I'll talk really nice and slow. Kidding. You'll get this. It's not that big of a deal. a little bit about myself. All right, so senior software engineer, DevOps. I work for a company called EverCharge Incorporated out of Palo Alto. EverCharge does EV chargers for fleets mainly. We do have a home product called Cove. I was just showing off that earlier. It's really nice and it's really sexy, for lack of a better term. It's got glowing LEDs that pulsate. You know, it's just that kind of. It's the chef's kiss. So, anybody know what that is to the right?
It's a dinosaur.
You're looking at an approximation of what I had in my bedroom in 1985. So, and it's playing music. Yes, 80s synth music. So, I am a nerd. I was born a nerd. I was raised by a nerd. I continue to be a nerd. So, and I will probably, on my deathbed, mumble some sort of garbage about, you know, 8-bit computing was where it was at. We should never went past it. Retro computing aficionado. Yes, I did spell it right because spell check told me I spelled it right. Let's get started. What is AWS? All right. AWS is a monster. It is freaking gigantic. I'm not even joking how gigantic it is. And for those of you on Google, I think last time I checked it was 7 viewers. At least one of those is from Canada, I'm pretty sure. Maybe one from Germany. We'll see. AWS is available in all of your regions. So they have Asia Pacific, they have Europe, US. We have a data center very close to us. So I would say you could drive there tonight, stare at it, and drive home. So it's a little bit of a drive, but you could. So
Just this side of Pendleton. Looks like a prison.
it does look like a prison. So again, 3 pillars behind any cloud computing service. This is true for GCP. This is true for Oracle. This is true for Azure. They all have these very 3 basic pillars: storage, networking, and compute. Okay? Your phone has all 3 of those. Is your phone the cloud? I would argue it is, honestly, based on how much information it's sending to Google and Apple right now. So, storage. So there are multiple different storage, and these are just examples. I'm not going to go into detail. S3 is an API-driven storage. For those of you who are grizzled veterans like me, think WebDAV and how we used to set up file systems that used HTTP to communicate, and it was slow and it was horrid.
Now, for the other 17 people in the room who don't know what WebDAV is.
How about Dropbox?
There you go.
Dropbox is very much similar. Google Drive, same thing. Elastic Block Store, this is your virtual hard drive or your physical hard drive in your computer. It represents a block storage device. Your phone has a block storage device in it. It is formatted for what your phone can understand. Your elastic file system, similar to NFS. Who here, I'm again aging myself, who here has actually done NFS in real life?
It hurts.
Yeah. I would argue that Amazon makes it easy, honestly. I've had really good experiences with EFS, and I do use it for containers, for sharing storage between containers. It's nice. There is a lot of other storage out there. I'm talking, you know, I went and counted, I think there was over 100 more that I could have gone into. These are just the basics. Networking, IPv4, IPv6. Unfortunately, what was the one that IPX, SPX never took off? Sorry for all you NetWare fans out there. Again, I'm aging myself. DNS, Route 53. How many of you use DNS on a daily basis? If you don't raise your hand, you're a liar. Your phone uses DNS right now.
You just don't know you hate DNS. That's
Yes.
the thing.
My first blog, its title was DNS is not some new technology, because everybody blamed it when something went wrong. Load balancing. Everybody here is using a load balancer. If you're connecting to a cloud service, there's a load balancer in front of it doing its job. Its job is to take your request and go, I think that service over there isn't very busy. I'm going to send you over there and I'm going to lock you into that service. Or if your application was written correctly and it's stateless, it goes, go wherever you want, man. Here, go over here. Many, many others. Again, this is a recurring theme, by the way, in case you Compute, EC2 virtual machines. We're gonna set up an EC2 instance from scratch. This is the first time I've ever attempted it tonight. So we could be here till 10 like I originally promised.
Lies.
Just a warning. ECS, Elastic Container Service. Think of Docker Swarm. Again, Docker containers is your entire thing that takes your application to run all the little resources that it needs, squished into one nice, neat little box. Why are containers important? Anybody want to venture a guess?
Keeps your app from spilling all over the place, like liquid.
It prevents dependency hell. Now, can you make dependency hell in a container? You bet your ass you can. Shoot yourself in the foot. I have seen containers running 6 different services over supervisor D. I am maintaining one right now. So, all right. EKS, Kubernetes. Brian knows this one. Kubernetes was the hot new thing. It's still kind of the hot new thing. So Kubernetes is basically an orchestration for containers, and it also encapsulates storage, networking, and compute. So if you run EKS on Amazon, you're running a cloud in a cloud. So serverless. Who knows what serverless is? Now for me,
a lie.
This is the hot new thing. It is absolutely a lie. But what it is you basically don't know where your stuff's running. Amazon has tons of servers out there that can schedule a container wherever it wants to go, and it will just put it out there. The nice thing is, they make it cheap, because I'm sure they've got some sort of magic that says, heck, these things barely do anything, we can do that. So I like to run really heavy loads on these things just to give Amazon a little extra. Never mind. So anyway,
Bitcoin.
Many other things. All right, let's talk about these pillars now. This is what we're going to use to build our EC2 instance. The important thing is you're going to have a virtual private cloud. What is a virtual private cloud? It literally is just a sandbox that says this is where I'm going to put my stuff. It includes subnets, networking, network containers, security groups, public subnets, availability zones, NAT gateways. I mean, it's got all kinds of fancy stuff in it. The biggest thing is it encapsulates your entire presence for that particular application. If you're smart, you're going to set up a VPC and you're going to limit it to applications, certain microservices, that kind of thing. If you're not smart like me, you're going to run everything in one VPC. So we won't talk about that. Oh, by the way, I'd like to thank Couchbase for the remote. Thanks, Lily. She walks up to me and she goes, "Oh, would you like to use my remote?" I go, "Yeah, I would, but I don't have, the full-size USB. My MacBook only has USB-C," and she flips it around and it's got the USB-C. And I'm like, I'm going to take you everywhere with me. So there you go. I'm plugging Couchbase now, which, by the way, we do use Sneak. So just another shout out there. We don't use FinTech though, because I don't want to drive 45 minutes to work every day. I like to roll out of bed and roll into my chair and start time. So, networking, subnets, and elastic network interfaces. These are your basic connections. If you have ever, wait a minute, actually, everybody here has Wi-Fi at home, right? Okay. How many of you actually plug Ethernet cables in, say maybe you have a PlayStation, Xbox, whatever, but you want that fast connection right there? Yeah, see, yeah. I know my gamers. So you have just done a subnet and elastic network interface. That's all that is. So it's that, think of it as a physical connection into your subnet. Subnets are same concept as VLANs without tagging. For those of you who are former network administrators like me, it's great because you can say this is my subnet. The cool thing is you can set up route tables. You can say, hey, this subnet can talk to this one, but this subnet, hell no, you're not. You're bad, or you're my private or whatever. This is where I'm keeping my MP3s. So, lives in a single AZ. So, this is the important part, and this is what cloud really is delivering to you from a very fundamental standpoint. Availability zones, most Amazon data centers have 4 AZs, A, B, C, D. There could be some with 5, I don't know. Maybe GovCloud maybe has that. 3. You guys get screwed. US West 1, I think, only has 3. But
the idea is that it is logical separation and physical separation inside the data centers for power, cooling, and access. So if I'm an Amazon employee and I want to go from Amazon or from AZ-A to AZ-B, I need special permission to do that. That's it. It's complete separation. And that's what I say there. Elastic network interface, again, same concept as ports on a switch. Also, your device, wireless device, has a network interface, but it's just not physically attached, it's virtually attached across the ether. Has a security group that controls the egress and egress to the ENI. Okay, this I'm going to kind of pause here because this is really important. This was a huge confusing concept, it was for me at least. You guys may just go, it's so easy. The idea is that people get stuck on, well, I need my database, excuse me, to be able to talk to, or I need my application to talk to the database. Who needs the permission? The application or the database?
Both.
Just the database. So, well, technically both, but for the most part, in every AWS configuration I've seen, egress is wide open. Just screw it, I don't need to control that. And unless you're in GovCloud, I imagine they probably do get a little bit more strict about egress rules.
And by this, I mean.
Yeah. So the idea is that, yes, while you can't control what your application talks to, for the most part, the default is that application can talk to anything it wants to. However, by default, Amazon restricts ingress, traffic coming in, to nothing, or whatever the wizard set it up for initially. So a good example is if I use the wizard for EC2, the wizard is going to configure SSH for wide open. And it will warn you, it'll give you little errors and say, hey, you should probably not do this, you should do, but by default it will allow it. For the most part, if I've got a database, RDS over here, and I've got an EC2 instance, and I need this EC2 instance to contact to the database, I need to tell the database, allow this IP address, this subnet, you can even do it by name, to access this RDS instance on port, if it's Postgres 5432, MySQL 3306, can I remember Oracle 1524? Where's my Oracle guy?
Who cares?
Okay, who cares?
The only people who care about Oracle are those who can afford it.
Very good point. So, it always has a private address, but it can also have a public address. However, there are some special needs.
What would be the reason for having a default be something that you shouldn't do?
Egress or ingress?
Or SSH.
Oh, for SSH?
Yeah, you said that
So
it will set it.
it is a foot gun problem.
Oh, what?
Okay. So I go in, I set up my EC2 instance, and then I go, I can't access this thing, Amazon sucks.
Oh, okay. Shoot, foot gun, cool, thanks.
You just shot yourself in the foot because you didn't understand that you need to tell your application, blah, blah, blah. The way I do it is, if I don't already have the infrastructure set up, I tell it to use my IP, and the console will take my IP address I'm calling from and put it in that rule.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yeah, absolutely. That's the way, that's, if you don't have infrastructure, that's the best way to do it, is say, restrict my IP, then later on you can allow if you need to. For the most part, SSH is, direct console access, and the way these Linux virtual machines start up, sudo access is, you log in as admin, you have instant sudo access, no password. So, ENI is attached to various resources. If you start up a load balancer, guess what's underneath it in ENI? EC2, ENI, Fargate, ENI. For every single one of these services, it's going to need a network connection. I can't think of an instance in AWS where you're going to stand up something and not connect it to a network. So, unless you're sadistic or something, I don't know. But anyway, moving along. Uh-oh, I'm getting ready to tell Catchbase that. Guess what database product I'm not buying? Storage. So, I'm blushing there. Those jokes, while funny, I always get a little bit personal. So, storage. All right. So we're talking about EC2 instances. And this is kind of important because your default storage is always going to be EBS for the most part, because you're going to need a boot disk. But you can attach all kinds of other storage to it as well. You know, EFS, S3, all yours. The EBS is what you're going to need for your basic boot up for Linux, Mac OS, or Windows. So we talked about S3. S3 actually is kind of cool in Amazon. You can actually build a React website on S3, upload it, do a webpack and all that stuff, upload it, and serve your React website from S3. Kind of silly. I mean, but it works. So there's an entire course in AWS land that teaches you to do exactly that. So is it used in real life? I bet there's some companies out there that are doing it.
Static site? Yeah, static sites.
Yeah, I mean, you're not doing anything dynamic. I mean, React for the most part is client side, right? So, elastic block storage. So, storage mainly used for EC2, but there are also other services that use it. It's not just limited to that, but it's kind of Amazon's basic building block for everything that needs a virtual hard disk. How many of you here have done Hyper-V? No one. Good. I want to talk about it. And the biggest thing that recently came up that I thought was kind of cool is you can now multi-attach EBSs to multiple EC2 instances. Anyone want to guess why that's kind of cool? How many here know the word cluster file system? Yeah, you could do a cluster file system on EC2. So OCFS is a good one.
Here, I was thinking you were going to say something else. Cluster. Never mind.
Cluster? Cluster F? That was a good boy. Didn't say the F word. So, compute, the final pillar. So this three-legged chair, this is it. We're going to talk mainly about EC2. What does EC2 stand for? Elastic Compute Cloud. Well, the two. All right. Anyway, so Elastic Compute offering available.
Pay no attention to it.
I've got a heckler now. So, multiple OS options, including Mac OS nowadays. You can run ARM64 Mac OS on EC2. I guess, I do have a use case. You're building Mac software and you need build servers for it.
iOS building machine. iOS apps.
There you go, exactly. All right. Base X, AMD 64, I put the actual Linux notation for it, or ARM64 CPUs. All of my applications right now are ARM64, just fun. Actually, this reduces cost too. If you're still using legacy AMD 64, it's more expensive by pennies. So, but anyway. Choice of OS includes a myriad of our marketplace offerings. This is great. You got AMIs out there like crazy. Debian, Ubuntu. They can run Mint if you wanted to. There are OS offerings for anything, Windows, Windows Server, Windows 10, Windows 11. I think Windows 10 is off now, but Windows 11. Linux is the most commonly used by far. I don't know if there's official numbers. You probably don't know either. But I would say probably better than 90% of virtual machines out there on AWS or Linux machines. And there are appliances available. I use one. Cisco iOS. Yeah, we have for a company that refuses to use Amazon's built-in VPN IPsec offering. We actually have to run a Cisco appliance for it on AWS.
Is that like a physical appliance?
No, it's a virtual machine running Cisco iOS. When it boots up, when you log into it, it's a Cisco iOS device.
What makes it an appliance? Is that just a term of art?
Term of art, but basically it is preloaded, ready to go with everything you need to operate that particular device.
Often they sell it and support it too.
They'll charge you extra for it. So in this case, this one right here is 89 cents an hour.
Yeah. It's an appliance because you can buy it in a marketplace.
Yes. So most Linux virtual machines are like, fractions of a cent per hour. So, can get very costly. And this is where another foot gun moment. We've got people out there who, and it's funny because I just had, we had a conversation last week with an AWS cost advisor, and they're looking at our stuff, they're going, you're doing most everything I would tell you to do already. It's like, but we want our price to go lower. Anyway, people out there who spin up GPU and bare metal instances, your costs will go like that real quick. And they get calls from people who say, oh, I didn't know what I was doing. You pretty much get one of those with AWS. And after that, you're paying the bill. So be very careful. Do not over provision too. The provision offerings are very confusing. Sit down, spend the time, read what they're for. You've got compute optimized, memory optimized, network optimized, GPU, bare metal. And then you've got large, small, tiny, nano. I would use the nanos. And then you've got 2XL, 4XL, 6XL. Anyway, it gets confusing really quick. Read the fine print and understand what you want and what you need. Understand what your workload is. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you'll use a general purpose one. That's the way it is. There are others we talked about for compute already. ECS, Lambda, Fargate. Fargate is basically, and there's Lambda Fargate as well, they run it wherever they're going to run it, and they do not tell you where they're running it, and you cannot find out. Unless you're Bezos' best friend. But then you're probably running on a rocket.
I don't think Bezos knows anymore what's going on. He's too busy playing with rockets.
I don't think he ever knew what was going on with AWS.
No.
It's like, Werner, take care of it.
Yeah.
Werner's got it though. Yes, he did catch it.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, phallic-shaped rockets. Anyway, sorry. So, who wants to see a demonstration? And I'm not kidding, I am quite nervous. So, all right. So,
Don't fuck it up.
that's the name of the game for today's operation. GPU.
AWS in 10 minutes.
Oh yeah, we could do the speed run to $1 million.
Sure, you still way to go, you win.
All right, so hopefully switch to the console. Hopefully I'm still signed in.
They'll let you do it. It's hard to spin up that many resources that short.
So you're absolutely gonna love my spend. I keep my costs low, baby. There is actually something running here. It's a
Free tier?
SES.
Free tier, yeah.
No free tier.
Ooh.
It's just SES. So for Ben DevOps for one of my customers, and yeah, I just happened to hit that very low usage amount that I probably squeaked by some sort of account spreadsheet, and they just never even noticed it. So, well, yeah, you can see here's IAM, SES, SNS, CloudWatch, and then I check my billing and cost management pretty regularly. All right, so anyway, let's go to VPC. So I do have one VPC already. See here.
Yeah, we're gonna try and zoom the camera in on the display so it's easier.
That's fine.
I don't think we figured out how to do screen sharing to YouTube live stream.
That's going to be something I'll work with Nathan on, is the OBS, because there's ways to do it.
Right.
Sweet.
So,
Yeah.
you just have to have video capture.
Yeah, I think one of our 7 watchers from remote might want to be into this.
All right, let's see here.
So, when you first spin up an AWS instance, or your account, for the most part, and no, I'm not sure on my account number, good. So, you're going to see, it's going to spin up one VPC automatically with 4 subnets. And the 4 subnets are going to be spread across the, let's see if I can scroll. They're going to be spread across the availability zones. Remember I discussed those? They are 2A, 2B, 2C, 2D.
You're obviously not in US West 1.
Nope, US West, we discussed that earlier, they're the only one with 3, right? So, we've got a pro with us, so he's gonna come over here and do this demo for me. So, let's.
Gov West 1 is in
Yeah.
US West 1, I think.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
So let's have a look. This is my default security group. Again, this is all stuff that was set up by default. And remember what I said about best practices? Yeah, they don't do it by default. So this is all in, all out. I generally do not use the default security group. but it is where I'm gonna start my journey. So I'm gonna create a security group. I'm just gonna call it EC2 demo. I hardly ever type on the laptop keyboard, so give me a break. We've got, I'm not gonna set up a VPC by default because that takes too long. So inbound rules. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna do SSH. 22. Source. Remember what I said. Set it for my IP. So this is the IP of this wireless here. And I can just say, bend, tech, come, hack me. So we've got that, we've got that. That's pretty much all we need. I'm not too concerned about outbound rules right now. I'm gonna check some other things real quick because one of the things we're gonna need is we're gonna need to make sure we have an internet gateway, which by default there should be. Good. So the internet gateway is gonna, think of it as a basic stupid router that will help traffic that's coming from the outside address get to my internal address on my EC2 instance. You can also set up NAT gateways, which I don't think by default it does. Perfect, it does not. And what a NAT gateway is, if you have machines that do not need to have direct access from the internet, so you are coming from China to hack my server through a NAT gateway, not going to happen because my server is not exposed through the NAT gateway. It is exposed through the internet gateway. See a lot of confused looks, it's okay. Network ACLs, I kind of covered on this just briefly. This is kind of your global firewall, if you will. This is everything to do with your VPC. By default, guess what it allows? Everything. There's your default deny rule. They just do that for looks and giggles. But no, seriously, it is there for a reason. You can delete this 100 rule and then your traffic will be blocked. And then you would just allow what you needed to. This is where I imagine the Glev Cloud probably does most of the work when they're controlling stuff. Seeing nods from my AWS people, thank you very much. Your check's in the mail. So, we've got the basics of what I need from the VPC. I've got a security group that allows SSH from this particular IP address. Now I need to go in, and I need to start working on the EC2 side. And there is some confusion on EC2. You would think that an ENI would probably live where? On the VPC, right? You may be wrong. It lives here. And guess what? So do security groups. Wait a minute, we were just here. No, it lives in both places. And if we go in here, we'll see, hey, I just made that, but I'm not in VPC. Yes, 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 we understand. Network interfaces, let's make one. So, I'm gonna create a network interface. This is my EC2 demo. I'm gonna give it a subnet. And I don't know, anybody have a preference?
B.
Too slow, C. So, now, private IP forward address, it's going to auto-assign. You can statically assign addresses internally. There are valid reasons for doing so. We have an HA proxy that supports legacy devices running on EC2 instance on a static IP address because these particular units cannot speak DNS. There's no capability. So, I'm not going to worry about fabric adapters, not going to cover that tonight. I'm not going to do any sort of weird stuff with my timeouts, but you can get really...
Is that a software-defined network thing?
Yep, it is. So, which is funny because this is all software-defined, isn't it?
It's software-defined, software-defined.
Yeah, there we go. So we've got that. Let's assign it a security group. So remember I said basic building blocks, security group, VPC, ENI. So we're saying this particular ENI can now receive traffic via SSH. So that's great. I've got an ENI, but guess what? It's not attached to anything. Notice instance ID is blank. There is no public IP for IPv4 if I can speak. Let's back up. I thought you could SSH to it. Yeah. Gotta have some compute. Remember, the pillars, right? We're missing a pillar here. We're missing the computer.
SSH into the void.
So we probably want to give this a public IP address, but wait a minute, where do I do that? We got to go back to VPC. Yeah. Got to go back to VPC because now we got to give a, oh, I'm lost. Told you I'd fail. All right, talk's over, everyone. See you next month.
Search for it if you need to.
Yep, so what I need is, I need an elastic IP address. So one of the nice things about their console, let's see if I can just do elastic address. Elastic IPs. It was under EC2. So, right under security groups too. All right. If anything, you're going to go home and you're going to laugh hard about all of this.
Until you try to do it yourself, then you will cry.
So we're going to
start reading the docs. Sure.
Yep. So we're going to allocate an address. Hey, look, we've got an external address now. There it is. 52, 39.
Just wrecked your build though.
159. So, well, actually that takes 24 hours to update. So, but for the most part, this level of stuff is mostly free. I would say pennies. So, all right, got that. We got that. Now we need an instance. Oh, wait, forgot something.
Storage.
Gotta give it storage. Create a volume. So 100 gigs. Screw that. Hey. So give it the minimum amount of IOPS. So this is kind of what I was talking about storage performance. We talked about this for building Docker containers. This is where things like this help. You're going to want some storage speed. You're going to want network speed for building Docker containers. Throughput also helps as well. We're going to go for bare minimums. Now, this is where it gets helpful. I said 2C, and I said it for a reason because I wanted to remember it later. So you do have to assign it to the same availability zone, because guess what? If you have an EBS in a separate availability zone from your EC2 instance and your ENI, they can't talk to each other, because why?
Physically separate.
They're physically separate. All right, snapshots. Hell no. Encrypt? God, no. All right, we've got a volume. Can anyone venture to guess, do we have enough to build an instance now?
I know, does it go up to 11? The volume?
It might.
Tell it's a good joke when you get it.
So,
Don't even look at it.
launch
But that's when he laughed.
If I laughed at it, it doesn't mean it's funny.
Yep. So you can use the wizard, and for the most part we will a little bit, but I'm going to just do it without. If you want free tier, and you want to guarantee free tier, just use Amazon's Linux image. Now, what's Amazon's Linux image based off of?
CentOS?
CentOS. Basically Red Hat free. So you'll notice here, you kind of want to pay attention. If you want to do this on the free tier, you want to always watch for this. It'll say right next to it, free tier. Always use the latest. So one of the things we ran into is we had Amazon Linux 1, the original stuff. They had stopped releasing patches for it 2 years ago, I think. Yeah, we ran into some issues. So, and upgrading was not easy. But you can kind of see some more of the images here. You can search, like I say. You know, we use Debian quite a bit just because we're familiar with it. Ooh, that didn't do it. Oh, because I have to select it. Anyway, the idea is you can do stuff. Here's the ones where you're going to be really paying for quite a bit of stuff here. The deep learning OSS NVIDIA driver stuff. Cha-ching. All right, moving along. We're going to go micro. Kind of weird that Nano is not on the free tier. Oh well, we'll take it. So, moving along. Oh, we did forget something. Well, I have to start over. No, I'm kidding. I'm just going to do it this way. So, we're going to create a new pair. And we're going to call it Vend DevOps. There are some such situations where you can use spaces and special characters. There are some places where you can use only alphanumeric. It will generally tell you, or it'll just bark at you after you get done typing it all in. You're like, If you want to be current, so OpenSSH has deprecated RSA key pairs. If you want to be current, start using, what was the Robocop one? It was Ed 209? No. Anyway, Ed 25519. Use the upgraded killer. So, we're going to use the PEM format because for the most part, everybody here is on a MacBook, just like me. Oh. And we're using PuTTY for SSH, if you're using SSH at all. All right, well anyway, either will work because you can convert them later, no big deal. It will download the key to your machine. That's great. So now I saw a little thing fly over here. Got a network. I want to select an existing security group that I already created, EC2 demo. I want to go advanced because I already created my EBS. I want to, it's not going to let me do it, is it? That's not fair. All right, well anyway. The old wizard used to let you select an existing EBS volume. Probably it's something you can go back and do later. That's it. We've just created a virtual machine on here. And it's in the process of booting. So if we go over here, we should see it starting. Currently it's pending. Running. So, what does that look like? Why do you open over here? Do what I need.
Just full screen, I think.
There's a public IPv4.
Yes, boy. Oh, well, hold up. Failed to something. And it also didn't want to use my ENI.
It's not Apps Manager, it's the system that allows you to console in the browser.
Console from the browser. You can't do it from here, provided that you did all your stuff here. So I could do EC2 Instance Connect from here and say, yeah, should be EC2 user for Amazon. I was going to just do it from the terminal, but we'll do it this way.
Don't need SSH this way.
This is actually SSH. It just happens to know all your key information. Ooh.
You can actually set up your SSH config to use whatever the system is that you have running
Not my keyboard. Leave bin DevOps pin .ssh chmod 600. So if you're not familiar with that, SSH will bark at you if you do not give it a file with correct permissions. It will say it's insecure. So I just moved it to my SSH folder and did it here. Now EC2 user at, I think I copied it to the keyboard. Look at me, thinking ahead. Host name can, oh, you know, sometimes a flag actually requires a letter. Yes, and we're in. So that was spinning up an EC2 instance. So now I can do sudo yum install htop because I like colorful top commands. And we'll see what, come on, type correctly. We'll see what's running. Got a single CPU instance, 1 gig of RAM, no swap. It's already using 70% of the CPU.
Just to run htop.
Just to run htop.
Unintended upgrade or whatever.
Yeah. Died down pretty quickly. It was probably still in the middle of booting, so there were some services fitting in. But there you go. That's it. That's a very basic instance. So from here, you know, a good example of why I spin up EC2 instances these days is mostly for build servers. So if I've got GitHub runners that I'm, they call them runners. I'll spin up an EC2 instance and run them there. And that's pretty much all I use those for nowadays.
Do you use the Philips Labs manager?
No, because we're small enough scale to where I'm only spinning these up maybe once a quarter. We haven't hit that, the break point where
Doing it
it's
by
like,
hand is fine, yeah.
yeah, it's there are so many tools to automate, so many cool things to do such, great work, but sometimes, the 5-minute rule applies, and it's gonna take me 2 days to set up this automation program, get it dialed in the way I want for a 5-minute job. So, it's just kind of depends on your personal preference. In the future, since I'm only the single DevOps guy right now, eventually I'm probably gonna have a team as this company grows. I probably will start setting more of that stuff up because we will be relying on more automation. We do quite a bit of build automation in GitHub, so a good portion of our stuff is already there and automated for the most part. But for this type of stuff, and Pulumi. We use Pulumi quite a bit for infrastructure as code. So, which I did very first meeting I demonstrated Pulumi. Again, it's one of those things. This is very basic. If you're just running small operations, you'll probably find that this is more than adequate for what you want to do. And you don't necessarily need to have a bunch of automation tools. But if you're thinking ahead and you want to eventually get to a situation where you're thinking about the future, if you will, maybe you want to start automating now.
The future and the bad things that can happen.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, that's it. Questions, concerns, complaints?
All right, we stand up a simple Node app on it and start load balancing to it.
We actually, Nathan and I have done that already.
Good question. There's no such thing as a simple node.
Depends on what you're using. If you use a template, you can spin up stuff pretty quickly. So Nathan and I worked on the Bin DevOps website. He's doing most of it now. I just did the initial kind of get it pushed on the ground, kicking and screaming. Sorry, trying to kill this before my bill goes to $2. I can't afford no $2 bill, man. So yeah, there's a glare right here on the screen. I'm just like fighting it.
There you go.
Terminate. There we go.
What infrastructure are you using for the DevOps? What are you using for compute?
Oh, we're AWS. We're ECS Fargate is 90% of our compute. For storage, we're all database, so it's all Postgres, RDS Postgres. We've recently went to the IO optimized, the serverless Postgres. That's been huge.
Oh,
so
cool.
We're doing.
And that's different than Aurora?
It's Aurora, but it's serverless.
It's serverless.
Yeah. So you give it ACUs, and you say, the minimum ACU is 5, and top it automatically scales the memory based on your usage. So
that's pretty cool. And the serverless gives you like a console that you can type SQL into.
Yeah.
Do you pay for byte scanned on that?
Come again?
Do you pay like inquiries by serverless? Do you pay per byte scan?
It's a metric based off CPU and data. So it's basically storage, network, and CPU, and there's a cost calculation. Our top top RDS instance is, I want to say about $4 grand a month right now. So that's our #1 database. And then we've got a smattering of other stuff like DynamoDB and stuff. I would say that's our biggest cost. And all the test instances, they all run RDS as well. So. But yeah, pretty simple, right? You guys want to all go home and do this? Just make sure not to do GPU or bare metal. But yeah, overall. So, just quick little feedback. Anybody else would like to see like part 2 of this? Because the part 2 I've been thinking about is, okay.
12-part series.
It might be nice to run that down slower because there was a lot of jumping around.
Yeah, it's hard to do because I'm trying to do without the wizard. The wizard does so much for you, it just says, done. So, but I'm trying to demonstrate where the stacks are and what actually it takes to build an instance. Because when you're troubleshooting, understanding which parts could be at fault is huge.
I went, coming from a DevRel, I went through this entire process out of college.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Lots of people do. They throw a lot of networking concepts at you all at once. And if I were to go tell a student, how to do this, I'd say go learn Terraform and start with the template that sets everything up for you. Go look at what resources were created and reverse engineer it. Like, go read about all of the different things that need to exist. If I was trying to get someone on AWS to use EC2 as simply as possible, I'd actually say, like, go do it through Terraform first. And
Yeah.
And then understand what it built and why it built it and why it works.
There's Terraform is kind of the 800-pound gorilla, but CloudFormation.
Yeah, right. So whatever.
We use Pulumi, which is basically a wrapper around CloudFormation.
You can export, I believe you can export CloudFormation templates from configurations.
Most configurations. There are some limitations.
And like the AWS SDK is now you can do Golang, Python, and it's pretty much.
Yeah, so and that's the one that I didn't mention. AWS SDK is basically like Pulumi, same stuff. It's infrastructure as code, and you're creating these templates based off of writing Python or TypeScript, or I think they even support Golang now. So you use one of those languages to build your infrastructure. And so knowing this from the front end, being able to understand what those stacks look like, translate later if you're using infrastructure as code, be able to say, okay, I'm going to need these following things to build this service out and get it connected.
And kind of going back and forth between your infrastructure as code, the web interface, and then like the CLI ends up being kind of like debugging.
Yeah. It does, and it will. One of the biggest problems that with all of these templating and formation type stuff, infrastructure as code, you can get yourself painted into a corner where you end up having to delete the stack and start over. Or luckily Pulumi got their refresh stuff down right, but when it first came out, I spent a lot of time trying to just tweak the stack and fix it manually through their configuration files. They finally fixed the refresh stuff where it goes, oh, that changed, and I don't have to do that. Instead of me having to go to the console and delete a resource or modify the resource inside of the.
It'll actually pick up changes that happen in the state of ROM.
Yeah, there are changes that happen cloud side sometimes just by Amazon does an upgrade to RDS or something, and it changes. So yeah, cool. I think my bill will be 0. We'll see. So, all right, yeah, I'll be here for a little bit. If you guys have any questions or concerns and want to know a little bit more.
Tell us about IAM.
Oh, shit. All right.
No. Don't tell us about IAM.
I'm just gonna do a 10,000-foot overview.
What regions can I have IAM?
No, we're not gonna even cover that. Oh, there's my account ID. Thanks, Amazon. So, IAM is your basic permission sets. And it takes a set of permissions. Well,
basic does not mean simple.
So speaking of footnotes,
like the cells in your body are basic. Imagine you had permission for each single one.
So it is a big footnote. And I scream at my devs constantly for the things they do where they just assign full S3 permissions to a service that maybe needs read bucket. And you really need to understand what you're doing when you're working with IAM. So identity access management, for those who need to know acronyms. But basically, you need to be aware that you want to be as fine-grained as possible, assign the permissions you need. AWS provides tools that after the fact of something I've run and you've got a permission denied, You can go in there and say, build a permission set based off that permission denied, it'll do it for you. That's a good way to start. But just understand that every service, so S3 I think has well over 80 different permissions tied to it. Understand more. You know, hundreds. To understand what they do and what you need. For the most part, you're going to find most of your services maybe need 2 or 3 permissions. So S3 is a really good, I use that example because I've done it so many times. List bucket, put, if you're going to write to it, what else? List all buckets maybe, and then the permissions to actually read the files underneath it. That's pretty much all most services need. But there's so many other permissions in there that you'll just be like, which one do I assign? Just remember list, put, and read are the ones you're probably going to need the most. So.
Is AWS, it's been a while since I've really been in AWS, do they have any good just-in-time access tools now, or is it still a lot of third parties?
As far as building permissions and when you need it?
Yeah, so.
Yes and no. So you may have a permission broker that understands, and it has permissions to write out those. But no, for the most part, there is not really a JIT involved. It's something you would have to. There's third-party tools that do it. But
Yeah, like cloud custodian and stuff.
Yeah.
Make suggestions, tell you where your advanced are now.
Yeah, there are also third-party auditing tools that will go through those and tell you where you need to clean up. Amazon has their own built-in too. It will tell you if what permissions your service is actually using. You can pull that out. But it's like freezing your own credit report. While everybody makes it sound easy, it's about 6 different phone calls every time you get it done. It only lasts so long. It's the same for an IM. It's just as much pain. So.
Execs always need to write on everything right away.
Yep. I've got battle scars from that. So. Now I'm going to go home and cry myself to sleep. Appreciate it, buddy. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Well done, Tyler. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right on. Cool. Well, thanks again, everyone, for making it out tonight. It's like just a little bit after 8. I'm going to start kicking you out so we can clean up by 9 because I'd like to go home tonight. As I'm sure the rest of you would too. Unless you don't want to go home, which is great. That means you enjoy hanging out here, but I'm going to kick you out by 9. All right. What we're also always looking for is speakers. We've got the location sorted. We've got the sponsorship sorted. Now the last frontier for us is getting a pipeline of speakers. I might have 1 or 2 lined up for next month, but we're going to continue to need to fill the pipeline. So if you think you might have a talk, I don't care how boring it is. If you want to tell us about how you built the next startup that's going to be, the next, I don't know, Uber for Netflix or something like that. Or you want to tell us about how you hacked your Furby to raise the dead. We want to hear about it. It's cool.
So offer specific example.
We have a lot of interest in this room.
AI is very hot right now.
Yeah, exactly. You want to AI your Furby. We want to see that. Come.
Furby is AI.
Yeah,
Furby
exactly. Then come tell us why it's terrible. We want to hear about that. We are always looking for speakers. So if you want to come give a talk again, come let us know. You can reach out to me. Come find us on our Discord. If you found the Meetup, you can find the Discord. If you're already on the Discord, you have no excuse because you're on the Discord. Come ping us over in the Meetup channel and just say, hey, I want to give a talk about my Furby and why it's evil. I don't know why I'm picking on Furby tonight, but yeah, that's it. So cool. Please, got a few slices of pizza left and still some chips and Girl Scout cookies, and I'm pretty sure there's plenty of beer still. So thank you for coming. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Yes.
So I also, to kind of add on what Brian was saying about the Discord, it's really great. We also have a bunch of developers, DevOps guys in there. We also share information. you know, tips, tricks, stuff like that. We also have been working on, we're also been working on a whole bunch of projects with like Discord bots and stuff like that, working on our website and everything. So it's just like a great way to like connect with other folks and see what they're up to and what they're hacking on. And, you know, like me and Tyler and Craig hopped on a call and we were working on some Python debugging and stuff like that. So like it's a great way to kind of build your network and just kind of like get access to other developers and kind of like expand that like communal knowledge, so to speak. So I highly recommend you guys all get on board with the Discord. And also if you come in, please like put in your if you feel comfortable, put in at least your first name and also your last name. That way everybody knows who you are. So what was your question?
What's the channel name again?
So there is going to be a link in. It's a URL that's carved it. It's just like a generated URL.
Did you find us on Meetup?
Yeah.
All right. If you go to the core Meetup group and you open the description, the link to our Discord is there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Post these videos or?
What's that?
Yeah. No. The YouTube live stream is on our YouTube channel for Ben DevOps, and also we're going to post the live stream video link in the Discord as well. And I'll just put a little comment in the Meetup. It's just kind of like email to everybody that our Discord link. I would love for you all to be in there. It'd be great. So.
Thank you.
All right. Cool. Yes.
Full circle.
Yeah. Here we go. Community building. See?
It's a resume item right there.
There you go.
It is.
Yeah, cool. All right. All right. Stop looking at me. Go socialize. Talk with each other. Come on. Community building. Right?
Is there a Ben DevOps GitHub group yet?
Yeah, we have an organization.
Just like a startup.
Well, yeah. It's been hard work.
We got our marketing down.
So what's happening?
That's
Really used for like, it's not used in production, it's used in marketing.
Yeah.
Oh, it just keeps rising.
I saw y'all in this week ago.
Probably do want to mention that.
We were at that page. It's like
There's a time I took down everything.
Let's do this over.
Not doing Postgres rebar.
Yeah, get on out of here. It's free. I'm teaching you.
Public database. Brian's class. We're so great. Yeah, I was
That's very niche section.
web teaching there, working on that. But yeah, somebody that database went up for use in our project, and immediately somebody in the class was like, guess I'll just clear that out. Nobody needs any of that stuff. That was interesting. Yeah, that was a mistake. That was a mistake. Nobody was set up right. Yeah, it was
This is the closest
that class is interesting. It was basically who knows the most and can destroy these public assets to us for this project. No, there was like,
No, in the Discord.
we had a, there's like this